Alright, we are live again for our Avengers talk. uh, oh, yo, uh, okay. So I made a list, like, of things that I thought, like, they did right in the movie and things I did wrong. I figure we can, kind of start there. But anyways, for anybody who can't read, this is Avengers spoilers, so if you don't want the Avengers spoilers, don't fucking watch the video. For anybody who has seen it and wants to talk about it, this is your place. Well, watch videos together on Discord. We can watch videos together on this. I can just fucking play videos. I do that. Did that earlier with a game that me and Blake were talking about. Anyways, okay. So, stuff is going to talk about that they did right. It ends. It actually fucking ends. I mean, it gets a little bit too much happy-go-lucky ending for the most part, especially considering that the end of Avengers Infinity War was, not happy at all. And I mean, perhaps the reason that they wanted like such a happy ending was kind of because like this film definitely was a lot more dark throughout the entire time. Like it was definitely an emotional movie. They were trying to get people to cry for sure, and Sarah cried through the entire movie. So there is that. Uh, another thing that I had that they did right was that there's like so many nods to the previous movies. Like there's just so many little scenes in there that just had accumulated from over the years. Like whenever Captain America ends up getting onto the elevator with all the guys, like he did back in Civil War where they all attacked him. That was pretty fucking amazing. It was. There's definitely a lot of fan service in the movie. Uh, what was the other one? Oh, so like, uh, yeah, that's Sarah. Yeah, all her crying, it was pretty hilarious. I was just like, man, it's not even like they're trying too hard. The other thing that like, my favorite scene, or at least definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is Captain America's fight with Thanos. Like that was just definitely the best part when he's actually wielding Mjolnir against him and just whoops the living shit out of him. that was pretty awesome, and definitely my favorite part. And also, I really like how I like how they've been kind of working the heroes' powers together, and then just like the way that Captain America came up, like the things he came up with to fight in that were just like fucking amazing. The plot was all over the place. I felt the plot was mostly tame. I mean, it was all about just getting everyone back and using time travel to do that. I mean, some of the rules of time travel were a little bit more silly, but we can talk about that here in a little bit. Another thing I put that they did right was the comedy was done pretty well. Like it didn't just like overtake too many scenes, but there was one comical bit that really felt out of place. And it's right after Captain was America was using lightning because he was technically Thor at that time. Thor is whoever wields the hammer Mjolnir. So whenever Thor isn't wielding the hammer Mjolnir, he refers to himself as Odin's son. There's probably lag in the chat. I would not be surprised. Oh, but so what I was talking about with the comedy was there's one bit like where it's really really dark with Black Widow's death, and then like they immediately start putting together the Infinity Gauntlet like immediately after that whole scene where like everybody's super depressed about Black Widow dying, and then Rocket Raccoon just like freaks out Tony Stark and makes him think that he blew up the place and by shouting boom. And it's like supposed to be a funny moment. It's just like you kind of need a little bit more time between those scenes. Uh, and then my last thing that I really wanted to mention about them that I thought that they did right was kind of having a more fitting ending for like all their heroes. Like they definitely ended it to where they're not going to use their heroes that their contracts are up for, and they're going to use the ones that are new. But like basically, like, Captain America kind of got like a decent ending. Tony Stark got a decent ending, considering he's a piece of shit in the comics and always has been. Bruce Banner joining with the Hulk and then maiming himself essentially so he can't fight anymore. And then who else was there? Oh, obviously Black Widow dying. Thor now becoming Guardians of the Galaxy. I guess they had enough money to afford only Chris Hemsworth. Fuck if I know. Oh, Iron Man dies by using the gauntlet. Basically, it kills him. And he knows it would kill him too. But yeah, he takes the Infinity Stone. He snaps his fingers to kill all of Thanos' army. Or I guess anybody who was working with Thanos at that time. So technically, if an alien was going to run ship, they would still be alive somewhere. Because, I mean, I'm guessing that's what happened, because Gamora and Nebula didn't die. Or, well, Gamora didn't die. Nebula was technically their Nebula, which was pretty fucking confusing. I actually thought that Bad Nebula had shot Good Nebula in the movie. But that's also kind of like one of the problems that I was talking about, too. Yeah, Hulk uses it at first. Hulk uses it at first to bring everyone back. And after that, Thanos attacks and everything happens, and like Hulk gets all fucked up. But then, like at the end, Thanos is gonna snap and just make everybody die. Is what he decided, and so like Iron Man like tries to stop him, and he ends up hitting Iron Man. But Iron Man took the stones out and puts it in his own new gauntlet, and then activates it. Okay. So now that I've talked about the things that did good, I'll talk about the things that they did terribly. One of them was the fucking CGI fights, man. Like I couldn't tell what they were fighting at almost any point in time. Like I'm pretty sure Hawkeye fought like the crawly black monsters from the end of Infinity War. I'm pretty sure. But honestly, I couldn't have even told them those because it was just so fucking dark. And then whenever they're just out there fighting in the middle of like the overcast night sky, and they're fighting the CGI monsters, I couldn't tell what any of the monsters were, besides like the giant flying fucking Chitari worm things, from Avengers. Like that was the only thing that I technically recognized. The rest of it, I was just like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? The editing was terrible. The editing and CGI were horrible on this fucking movie, which was sad. Another thing I was gonna say is like the fucking generals just like kind of all die off, even though they were such a huge deal in Infinity War, but they all just died off scene most of the time in this one, which is kind of sad. Just that whole final fight was kind of shit after the fact that everybody comes in. Like, it just went downhill from there. Another thing I had listed as being done terribly is that the female empowerment scene, basically. Apparently, apparently fucking Marvel just thinks all women are retarded, and if you don't just blatantly throw shit into their faces, they won't understand what you're trying to do. Like, you can have female empowerment, that's fine. Like, pretty much Captain Marvel's movie was all about female empowerment. But, like, just to, like, kind of blatantly have all the women land into one spot and fight together and take out everything, it was just like, yeah. If you were any more on the nose, you'd be up the fucking nostrils, man. Also, Gwyneth Paltrow being a superhero at the end and fighting with everybody was like the worst decision Marvel has ever fucking done, and just something that disgusted me. Absolutely disgusted me. Oh, you're talking about Captain Marvel, not Captain America, but yeah, she had like this short haircut. It's actually funny because like everybody in the movie mentions that they don't like her fucking haircut. uh, yeah, she was in the female fight, and she just kind of shows up and like puts her fists up, and it's like, bitch, when have you ever even thrown a fist? Like, I don't think I've ever seen her actually even attempt to punch something, but she's gonna fight an entire army because she's a woman and she needs to be there. It was just like, oh no, this is bad. Like, like just having Captain Marvel there was like enough female empowerment that basically, like, you know, they had the 3 mil Avengers that couldn't take on Thanos, but then she fucking comes in and just wrecks shit. Like, that was enough. That was enough. You didn't need the whole bullshit where you just, like I said, blatantly throw it in people's fucking faces. Like, there's beauty in subtlety. Oh. Anyways, another thing that like I thought was done horribly was what I'm calling now the Peter Parker coincidence. So, if you don't know what the Peter Parker coincidence is, basically, because the story takes place 5 years in the fucking future from the time they got erased, and everybody who was erased was brought back to that time. So, basically, they lose five years from the Earth itself, and everyone else has continued to age. So, Peter Parker has a new movie, and in the movie you see all the original cast. So the Peter Parker coincidence is apparently his entire fucking school was snapped. While everyone else, just like half of everyone else, his entire fucking school had to have been snapped, and everybody he cares about because they're all the same fucking age. And yes, Gwyneth Paltrow has an Iron Man suit, and she's Pepper Potts. She's the one I was talking about that is a fucking nightmare. She's technically called Rescue, and it is something from the comics, but oh my god, that was fucking terrible, was that scene. Oh, okay. So, another thing I had on here that I thought was terrible was, like I kind of talked to you about this before on text, but I'll mention again for the video, is that whenever Hulk goes to try and steal the time stone from her, and they have like the big argument, she explains to him that if you take one of the stones, because the stones themselves are responsible for reality, they're created by the Big Bang, and so like the stones exist within that universe as part of that universe. So to take them away would diverge you on a different timeline. But then supposedly putting them back will put you back on the right timeline. That was a discussed thing. But anyways, so that's expressed as being a rule for their time travel. But at the beginning of the movie, whenever they go to get the Infinity Stones back from Thanos and snap everyone back to reality again, they find out that Thanos has destroyed the stones and therefore cannot use his stones. But they had just mentioned before that these stones were holding in time and space and all of reality, but Thanos destroyed them. So shouldn't the entire world have just ended at that point? Like, him destroying the stones makes no fucking sense. Like, I understand that they did it so that they could get to the whole time travel back to steal the stones and make the whole story, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. It would make more sense if they basically had just he had hid them, would not fucking tell anybody about it, and Thor ends up killing him because he's so mad, and that's why they can't find the stones. Like, that would make more sense. And that would also make more sense why there's the fucking Avengers like there is. Because after, like, like they find out that shit doesn't, like, that they can't save all their people, like, Rocket Raccoon becomes an Avenger, Nebula becomes an Avenger, people who've never even been to fucking Earth are just Avengers and avenging Earth. It would have made more sense if they were looking for the stones before Ant-Man came, and that's how they got the idea, like, we need to go back in the past to find them. Oh, you're talking about specifically what Hulk says, but Hulk doesn't know anything about time, and that's kind of expressed in it a few times, which is kind of ironic because every other time he's been just so super intelligent. And then my last thing that I just really hated about the movie, or that really got me, was that they did a complete 180 on Thanos' character. Like, everything that they kind of built up in Avengers Infinity War, completely destroyed, completely the opposite in this new one. Because in the first one, he was trying to, destroy half of humanity to save all of, destroy half of everything to save everything because of limited resources and so forth. Which, I mean, had at least some kind of point to it. Like, it was stupid. Like, it didn't make much sense whenever you thought about it, but it at least made some kind of sense. Like, you could see how someone else who is less intelligible could come to that conclusion. But in this one, he just wants to murder everyone. Like, that's his thing. He's just gonna kill Boner. He's just gonna kill everyone. He wants to be worshipped as a god. He's not the guy who did it all and was the martyr and was okay with dying like he was originally. It just makes no fucking sense. And it's a horrible, horrible 180 on a character that, actually had more dimension. Like, they always give, Marvel this slack for basically their people being evil for the sake of being evil, and that's what they did with Thanos in this movie for some reason. Okay, so question was, did they go back into different realities or just one single reality? They just went along their own single timeline, but they did end up changing the past and causing a different reality. But they did that because of Loki. Because whenever Loki disappears, he's technically created a separate timeline at that point. And they have, like, TV shows coming out. Like, one was Falcon, one was Black Widow, and one was Loki that they were talking about. And so Black Widow should be about her past before she became an Avenger, I believe. So we're going to get that. Falcon's will be, I don't know, I guess him just being a hero up until the point where till he becomes Captain America. And I'm guessing Loki's is probably this bad Loki who's traveling wherever he wants in this new timeline now. You mean The Dark Knight? Because Dark Knight Rises was a fucking horrible movie and there was no Joker in that one. And so they're supposed to all be in the same timeline with what they've done. Like I said, the only separate timeline should technically be the Loki one, but there also is probably another timeline because Cap went back in time and lived with Peggy, and so that should either create a separate timeline or Captain America, after seeing out his life, teleported back to there that day, which is also a possibility whenever you can move through space and time. yeah, the time travel is a little bit complex, and any kind of movie with that obviously is going to make it complex. So, some scenes I thought they did pretty good. I kind of liked that the movie didn't go exactly where I thought it was going. I figured they were just going to grab the time stone and just redo everything, and that would have technically, like, made made the would technically have made the Avengers Infinity War like a horrible fucking movie because it would have just been redone. I am glad that they went with the route of they couldn't do that. So then 5 years passed. Like that was really fucking cool. You see 5 years pass and see stuff like that. But yes, so basically what happened to Captain America is that he went back in time to deliver back all the stones where they need to be and deliver Mjolnir back to Thor so that everybody had everything they need. And then after that, he lived out his life from the 70s where he, ran into Peggy Carter again, lived out his life with her from there and to present day. But so the thing is that probably would have created another timeline, unless in our timeline that's technically what happened. It's kind of hard to say, but it also kind of makes me feel like that must have been a separate timeline because he obviously didn't kill himself because he was unfrozen because he appears in that timeline. But I feel like it must have been a separate timeline because they would have like it would have to be like old Cap fighting with new Cap because there's no way like on anything that's been established through Captain America's background that he would let anything happen and not do something about it. Like this is literally a guy who calls himself Captain America, holds the fucking flag colors all over himself, and fought his own fucking government whenever he thought they were doing something wrong. Like there's no way this guy. But yeah, so basically there would have been two Captain Americas. There would have been the older Captain America, and then the Captain America that we know. And so, I mean, like I said, I think that's basically create another timeline where there was essentially two Captain Americas, because I can't see him just sitting back, even if it was his retirement. It wouldn't make sense for his character. So I'm guessing that it made it a separate timeline. Uh, so one thing I was kind of thinking of that I really wish they would have done with this is they would have actually done like the separate timelines that like every world that they took that stone from became a separate timeline and things went horribly shitty for them because they didn't have the stones. That would have been a fucking excellent story plot for the next one, and they could have had like these Avengers from these broken worlds that were destroyed come and try and fight them, and that would have been fucking cool and a good way to like bring back like the old characters just for like one last hurrah for like a final story arc here, which would have been nice. Get help from the other powerful people in the universe. Well, it wasn't a universal thing. For one thing, it was only really the war was only really with Earth. Even though, yeah, lots of people all over the universe were technically affected by this. I think they do mention something about like somebody picked up that the Ravagers were there in the fight. So we've got other characters seen from Guardians of the Galaxy fighting in that final fight scene too. I didn't see them because it was, like I said, a CGI fuckfest that I couldn't tell what was going on anywhere. But yeah, definitely after this, it's interesting to try and think of like what new story arc they're gonna do, or like where their movies are gonna go for the most part. Like, what do you think the next arc will be, or what do you hope it'll be? It's hard to try and think of anything that they could even do at this point. Yeah, Thanos killed 50% of the universe, not just Earth. Oh. And making movies, please. I don't know, they're absolutely going to make more movies. It'll be kind of interesting to see what they do. I expect they're going to have Red Hulk coming out here pretty soon because they had Thunderbolt Ross at Tony's funeral. That was interesting because they only had characters there who were like going to continue to be in movies, basically. And they also, like, there's a random kid in the movie, and I wasn't sure who it was, but it's been confirmed that that's technically the little kid that Tony helps out in Iron Man 3 to attack bullies with military-grade weapons. Yeah, they're making Guardians 3, Captain Marvel's getting a sequel, Black Panther's getting a sequel, Stephen Strange is getting a sequel, Spider-Man's getting a sequel. I think that's all that's announced so far. I can check real quick. Well, I heard some talk that Sony was taking back Spider-Man because they weren't happy about what was being done with the rights or something for it. So that will be interesting to see if that happens. Marvel future movies. Let's see what all's been confirmed real quick. Oh, Iron Man 3 was the fucking worst Iron Man, and that's saying something considering how bad the second one was too. Okay. Yeah, 2019 to 2021. What are the new ones? Oh, X-Men Dark Phoenix is the same part of the same universe. Spider-Man Far From Home comes out on July 5th. No, Disney... That's the thing, like, Disney did just get a hold of, like, everything, I think. But the Spider-Man specifically was owned by Sony. And that's why they had to get the kind of the rights for that. New Mutants, still not really. Morbius is set for July 31st. That's a side character. So I'm not sure if that's technically Sony, because he's a Spider-Man character, or if that would be Marvel. But I mean, I guess this list as being Marvel from here. If you don't know who Morbius is, he's the like the science professor from the 1966 cartoons that turns into like basically a plasma-sucking vampire that sucks your plasma from his hands. I think he's in the comics too, but I think he has a little bit different of a story than being just a fucking college kid with Peter Parker who gets bitten by a radioactive bat and becomes the plasma-sucking dude. Avengers would have been way better with Wolverine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would have just been him snarling and slicing up fucking CGI monsters. I don't think it would be that much better with him at all. Venom 2 is being created, but that's not fucking I mean, it's Marvel, but not Disney. Yeah, and Black Widow is coming out in 2020. That series. Oh, the Eternals is coming out in 2020, apparently. So that's where we're going to see, I guess, Adam Warlock come in? Is in the Eternals, probably? Because they teased him at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Venom doesn't exist within that universe. Venom is Sony only, specifically. But they did talk about putting Venom storyline in the actual Marvel comics if it did good enough. And it technically did do good enough. It was terrible. It was basically a buddy cop romance. Was Venom. I actually technically haven't seen it either. I just heard enough to know to stay the fuck away from it. They're making an Into the Spider-Verse 2. Not sure how I feel about that. I did love Into the Spider-Verse, but at the same time, I just see them fucking up Into the Spider-Verse 2. And on top of Into the Spider-Verse 2, there's actually an Into the Spider-Verse spin-off, apparently. Oh boy. Okay, yeah, Black Panther 2 is confirmed for 2021 sometime. Doctor Strange 2 for 2021 as well. Oh, there's a Shang-Chi? Isn't Shang-Chi one of the Iron Fists, though? Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure Shang-Chi isn't one of the Iron Fists. So they're going to have an Iron Fist come into the Marvel Universe. But they don't know when that one's coming out. There's no release date for that one. Yeah, Warlock. Adam Warlock's like one of the original guys who defeats Thanos. That's like by pulling him into the Soul Stone, where he can't use his powers. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is confirmed, and looks like that's kind of mostly it. Yeah, there's no mention of anything else, so. But I mean, it could be probably more than anything, Marvel's just kind of tight-lipped. They're tight-lipped about everything because they wanted Endgame to kind of come out and not really be spoiled by everything. Oh, so what did you think? What was your favorite scene within the movie? Like I said, mine was definitely the one where Captain America picks up Mjolnir and fights Thanos. After that, that was pretty fucking awesome. So movie, make it a funny drama. Yeah, I mean Hawkeye is definitely a funny dude, even though his like stories are generally darker. No, they'll never make DC versus Marvel. If none of them can make all of the money from it, none of them will allow it. It won't be an amalgam comics, the movie. Uh, oh, as Infinity War? Yeah, Infinity War was a better movie, but Infinity War was also only good because this one didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, and that's with, like I said, where them basically just snapping their fingers and going back in the past and redoing everything. They did a better job. I do like the 5 years passing. That's pretty nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like there's a lot of like fucking Thor Ragnarok was like one of the worst ones about the comedy just kind of like being super inappropriate and out of place and basically just making the whole movie fucking horrible. But I feel like the comedy was really done well in this one, which is interesting because for the most part it was pretty dramatic. So having all the humor in it was kind of nice. Thoughts on Fat Thor is that it was hilarious. I definitely had laughs, and I'm sure everybody laughed. I I part of me feels like the only reason that they included a Fat Thor was so that a bunch of fat people now have cosplay options. But I do I the one of the worst things is that Thor really is just a joke. Like thinking back on it, like whenever we were talking about Thor's character, I just realized that like every single movie he's just a fucking joke. And I mean, like even with this scene, he's just a fucking joke. Like so, they mentioned that like the whole reason he kind of gets here is essentially because he has fucking PTSD, and this is essentially how he handles it. And like they had PTSD with another character before in Iron Man 3, they tried to do it with Tony Stark. And they like basically had him like having anxiety attacks and stuff and like handled it in a much more serious manner. But then in this one it was just part of the butt of a joke, and like they just ignored it. Yeah, fat cosplay. Fat man's cosplay. I gotta dye my hair blonde so I can be Thor. uh who was your favorite character in the movie? I feel like mine was Captain America, especially with him having like the best fucking sight or the best fucking scene. His arc in Infinity War was amazing. Yeah, it was excellent, very much so. Besides the part where him and Peter Quill are like bashing their dicks against each other for supremacy, that was ridiculous. Especially just because it ruined Peter Quill's character even more than it already his character was. Although I did kind of like it a little bit better whenever they're at the end, whenever Thor's kind of joining up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't really care for the whole like him flicking the screen thing and then getting all pissy about it, but I do like how they're like, yes, you should fight for leadership with guns or knives. Use knives! Like, that was a pretty good one. Rocket Raccoon was your favorite, huh? I don't know. Like I said, Rocket's character just didn't make sense to me because he's now a defender of Earth, even though he's never even fucking been to Earth. And there was even, like, there was even a scene where, like, Miss Marvel, says something, and he's like, why aren't you here on Earth? Why aren't you doing things on Earth? And she's like, there's like a billion other galaxies, and they all need help. And he's like, oh, right. You've got a point there. And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, what are you doing? Like, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. did a pretty excellent job. Honestly, everyone did an excellent job as far as acting goes in this movie. Like, the acting in it was pretty fucking good. But even, like, going back to the editing issue, like, there was, like, a whole lot of scenes that I felt like they lingered on, like, too long. Like, there's probably, like, 20 minutes of the movie that's just somebody's face standing there and how serious they're looking. And then, like, there's whole lot of scenes that go from, like, really dark to really bright. And gave me a horrid headache watching the movie. And yeah, it's kind of funny because, like, I liked Iron Man's character, and he kind of had the best story arc for the most part in this. I mean, he definitely had the most character development and everything. Like, they even, like, played on, like, his meetup with his father at the end, too. Even though, technically, Tony had always made that kind of decision anyway. But, yeah. As I was saying, like, with the whole thing about him meeting his dad, like, that, he meets his dad, and, like, his dad doesn't really say much of anything, but they have that talk, and, like, his dad, talks about how he isn't sure that he could make that choice of, putting the greater good above his own selfish needs. And so that's kind of like the thing at the end with, he puts on the glove, and, like, Thanos is like, I am inevitable, and, like, snaps his fingers and realizes there's no stones in his glove, and then Tony has, like, the gloves in there, and he's like, I am, and, like, I was thinking about it for a minute, and he says, Iron Man, and snaps his fingers. It was all about him, like, coming to realization, like, yeah, I gotta do this. This is who I am. Oh yeah, there's been contract issues technically forever, and it's sad to say that this is like one of the greatest, like, cultural phenomena of, like, forever. Like, it's hard to say that if anybody's ever going to do anything as good and as well placed together as this Marvel universe is. It'll be interesting to see how the new actors handle it, for sure. I mean, they can always pull in, new big people too. But yeah, it's sad to think that, like, basically the Marvel universe was created by this one guy who's a piece of shit. Like, the guy who actually had the idea for turning the comics into movies is, like, fucking human scum. Like, the fact that Don Cheadle's in the movies is literally because whenever there was contract issues with the original actor from Iron Man 1, he said, just put any black guy in there, nobody will know the difference. Yeah, but Paul Rudd's jokes actually land. Like, fucking... Oh my god, I can't remember what his name is. Peter Quill's character, or actor rather. I forget what his name is at this very moment, but he just... he doesn't really have good jokes. He is the joke. He's fucking Kevin James wandering around in space, and that's the joke. And Doctor Strange's whole thing is he's a pompous ass. I mean, that's literally his thing in the comics, too, so not really all that different. Black Panther, yeah, doesn't have, like, a whole lot of personality, really. he was technically like the most underdeveloped character in his own fucking movie. When you think about it, kind of. I mean, his main goal is he's royalty, or his main thing is he's royalty. It's interesting to think about that Black Panther is like the least developed character in his own movie. Seems a regular guy from Shaft movies. Uh, I actually haven't seen any of the Ant-Man movies. I kind of want to see them a little bit now, just after seeing this, to kind of like get a little bit better grasp of the things. Like whenever he meets his daughter Cassie, that was pretty kind of cool. But one thing I was kind of disappointed that they missed the chance to do is doing a Young Avengers, because Hawkeye's daughter disappears, so now she's significantly younger than excuse me, Ant-Man's daughter Cassie. Because in the comics, they form like a group called the Young Avengers. Basically, they have their parents' abilities. But yeah, Hawkeye's daughter is just too young now. Also, another kind of interesting thing in the movie, how they kind of know that like everyone's back alive is Hawkeye's wife calls him. So that means for 5 years he was paying the cell phone bill. Is that what that means? Because otherwise, how'd she call him from her fucking cell phone? But not enough to carry a movie. I don't know. I think Hawkeye. I feel like Hawkeye could carry a movie by himself. Like he gets, just because they like the little bit of character development they kind of give him is usually the best in the stories, anyways. Black Widows is weird, and it would be interesting to see more detail put in, but it's hard to say, like, because any movie that you gotta do with like Black Widow or probably even Hawkeye is just going to be dark and gritty, and they're just gonna try and turn it into a comedy fest because that's what works for them. So I doubt they can make a good movie with them. Captain Marvel they can do good with, because like she can cross around with other characters like the Defenders or the Guardians of the Galaxy and people in space. So they could do good with hers, but it really depends on who they have writing the scripts, because the Captain Marvel movie wasn't like that good. Like it was pretty meh. Anyways, I think that's all we're gonna do for this. It's already dragged on quite a bit. If you wanna talk some more about it, we can feel free to text me and we can talk some more on that. But that's all we're gonna do for the live feed. Thanks, anyone who was watching. Yeah, we have two viewers, so that means at least one other person's on here watching. Anyways, take care, everybody.